Hi everybody, Vivek Patel here from Meaningful Ideas, and I just got a question from somebody who was asking about my kid that has trouble going to sleep at night, and I know they need more sleep and they stay up really late, and I think if I force them to go to sleep they'll be healthier, but then I'm being authoritative and not non-coercive collaborative, and what do I do? Because I want them to be healthy and I want them to get sleep, but at the same time I'm trying not to be coercive. But I feel like if I don't force them to go to sleep and make them go to sleep at a particular bedtime, they're going to be up late all night and it's going to ruin their health and ruin their happiness. And they have grumpy days anyways, and then they make everyone else's day grumpy too. That's not word for word, but that's kind of it. And of course, we hear that kind of thing all the time, right? Because there's so many areas of life that we need to guide our kids to keep them healthy, to keep them safe, to keep them alive, and other people in the environment too. We want to help keep them safe and keep them happy and help them get their needs met. And when you have multiple kids and all sorts of different elements, it's really hard to balance all that. And the fact is, it's really hard to balance all that. There's no way getting around that. It's really hard to balance all that. And that's one of the reasons people default to coercion and force, because it feels much easier, much neater. You just back it up in this little box of do what I say, and I'm using my power to control it, and you can have your feelings, and I'll empathize with your feelings, but you still have to do what I say. And it's easier because it just gets done. It seems easier. And in that moment, it might be easier. But it's always going to work against us in the long run. Even in the short run and even in the medium run, it's always going to work against us because we're injecting violence into the relationship. And whenever we inject control and violence into a relationship, a human relationship, right? That's what parenting is. It's a human relationship. It's a deep sacred duty. You said duty, but also it's a deep human relationship. When we inject control and violence, and I say violence, most people don't think making a kid go to bed at 8 is violent. But if they say no and we insist, how can we insist? If they just sit on the couch, how can we insist? Well, we have to use some kind of power to force them to get up off the couch against their will. Whether it's emotional or relational power, whether it's physical power or access to resources power, whichever the power is. Those are the 4 elements of power that I talk about. Physical, mental, emotional, relational, 5, and access to resources. And the 6th is spiritual consciousness as well, but that's a different thing. So when we use our power to control our kids or to control anybody we're in a relationship with, every single time that gets wired into the nervous system and into the relational system. And it also impacts the environmental systems, the system that we use, that we set up in our homes, the timing and everything, and the way we work with bedtime, the way we work with food, and all that stuff. And so when we inject that violence in it, what happens is the kids have to pull back, they have to protect themselves from us and create a shield. And it doesn't take some of the skills anyways. And then what the other part of it is, whatever issue we're trying to make better, like sleep, we can end up giving them a negative association with it because it's associated with power, it's associated with control, it's associated with violence, it's associated with a lack of autonomy and denying my consent and a lack of ownership over my own body and my own choices. And all of this stuff gets layered on as associations to something that's supposed to be beautiful and nourishing, like sleep, right? And then those associations last our whole lives. Sleep doesn't become like a nourishing, beautiful part of our self-care regimen that we take seriously and work to make as effective and best as we can. It doesn't become that way. And so maybe your kid will get a few extra nights of sleep until they start to resist more and find a way to resist more, which I fully encourage. But maybe they'll get a few nights of extra sleep, but it's not doing them any favors, really. And also, it doesn't mean you give up working on sleep altogether. It doesn't mean you give up working on sleep. What it means is you find a different way to work on it. So then you start, there's a few different things. So one is, if you're having struggles at bedtime, you can start practicing when it's not bedtime what the routine might be like. So maybe you do a fake bedtime in the afternoon, right, for a few days, practicing it. So there's no pressure. The kid doesn't have to do anything. The baby's not trying to sleep. You're just practicing, right? And then you can make it fun, and you can make it silly, and you can talk about the different elements of it and why they're happening and how it helps them and how it helps me and how it helps the other kids in the family, other people in the family. But not in a way that makes them feel like they're wrong for not doing it that way, right? More like, here's the reasoning, and here's the joy, and here's the fun, and here's the connection, and here's how it can help you. But also, staying up late is also great. So we also want to validate that staying up late sometimes is great, and going to sleep early sometimes is great. And how do we decide which is which? Because there's really great things about both. And so then you start to talk about sleep and the utility of sleep, and rest, even not just sleep, but just rest. But you can also talk about how different people need different kinds of rest, and maybe your kid needs less rest, and you need more rest, and the other kid needs more rest. And like it's a complex thing. Sleep is a complex thing. Food is a complex thing. Relationships and manners are a complex thing. Chores are a complex thing. It's not just picking up toys. It's about how the environment feels, how your relationship to the toys, and spatial awareness, and how other people feel in the space, and how do we care for the shared environment. The same with sleep. How do I care? How do I care for my body, and how do I balance the joy of being awake and doing stuff with the joy of getting a little extra sleep and getting some rest? And learning that balance takes time. And so for me, one of the things is every decision we make has a cost and a benefit, has a pro and a con, has a good thing and a bad thing, right? And so every decision has a loss and a gain. So the question is, which loss are we more willing to live with, and which gain are we more invested in, more aligned with our values? And for me, the cost of being non-coercive, which is things that are a little messier and a little more wild, and it takes more time to get the pattern set in a healthy and effective way, that cost versus the cost of damaging the relationship with my kid, damaging their relationship with themselves, damaging the relationship they have with sleep. Like for me, the pros and cons are so obvious, but that's just me, because I've been really, to be on this path for 27 years, I had to really convince myself, right? So I really want to understand the pros and cons of each of those things. So that's something that could help, maybe, is really think about what are the pros and cons of each of those, coercing and non-coercing, collaborating and controlling. And for yourself, and it takes a lot of thinking about it, and honest thinking, not thinking in the way that gets you what you want, but thinking really to find it out. You'll soon probably see, I did, that the cost of being coercive and hierarchical is a cost that doesn't align with my values, doesn't get me what I want, doesn't make me the kind of parent that I want. So then I choose the cost of non-coercion. I choose the cost of collaboration and treating my kid as an equal. Both ways, there's going to be some challenges that we have to deal with, and both ways we get some benefit, right? And so it's very clear to me that the cost-benefit analysis of non-coercive collaborative parenting is much more appealing in the short term and long term. And like me with my I have a 27-year-old that we're best friends, and there's like this joy in our relationship. We're always texting each other every day, and she comes to me with her deep issues and problems and her joys, and it's just like the relationship is so fantastic and beautiful, and you can't get that, not quite like that, when you have controlled someone for many years, right? So for me, the choice is obvious, but it also comes with the cost, which is also the inner work that we have to do. And like I said, being comfortable with the discomfort, being able to sit with discomfort, the discomfort of change, is an important part. Anyway, I hope this helps with the idea of how do I decide if I need to give up being authoritative in order to be non-coercive. Yes, you kind of do, because they're incompatible. And thinking about it for ourselves, which aligns with our values and which of the costs and benefits align with our values and our goals, it makes a lot of sense. So thank you very much, everyone. Please follow me on all the spaces at Meaningful Ideas, and meaningfulideas.com is where I have my free course called Guiding Without Controlling. There's also a paid course on there, and there's more paid courses to come. And I'm also starting my podcast soon. I already have a bunch of episodes recorded, and I'm going to be starting a parenting support group soon, which I will invite you to join. But that's kind of still in the works, so keep an eye out. And that's it, everybody. Peace out. Much love to you.